Just over a year ago, in the 2024 offseason, the New York Giants shocked everyone when they let their generational running back go, their face of the franchise, the saving grace of their entire team, the one who put it all on the line and who got nothing in return. Saquon Barkley once said that he wanted to be a Giant for life.
I think I kind of been vocal about how I feel about this place. But I want my legacy to be in this place, and I want to be a Giant for life. And
he loved New York, he loved the fans, and he loved the team. But the Giants front office made it clear that the NFL is a business, and at the end of the day, he was no exception. The Giants didn't need Saquon Barkley, so they let him go. But fast forward a year later, the Giants' worst nightmare, the one thing they didn't want to happen, happened. But how did we even get here? How did the Giants and Saquon Barkley fall apart? And how did that lead him to the Giants' most hated rival, where he stands holding up a Lombardi Trophy, not in the Giants' blue, but in the Eagles' green? Let's find out.
And that's where Eli Manning and his 2-0 postseason record here at Lambeau Field will start his day.
Prior to this NFC wildcard game, the Giants had ended the 2016 regular season with an 11-5 record, their best record since 2012, and their first time making the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl. Having ended the regular season with some momentum, we were looking to have a competitive game here. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers versus Eli Manning and the Giants. But I don't think anyone expected for the Giants to completely shrivel up and get completely dominated by the Packers. 38-13 was the final score. It was a bad loss, it was embarrassing, and in hindsight, it was the beginning of a dark time for the Giants. The following season in 2017 was horrendous. Prior to the season, some people had the Giants contending for the Super Bowl, but no, they weren't even close to that. The reason the 2017 Giants were so underwhelming was mainly because of injuries, lots of injuries, but it was also because the front office and the coaching staff were dysfunctional. But in the midst of this historically disappointing season was a shining light. Due to their abysmal record of 3-13, the Giants had a chance to select a generational talent from Penn State, Saquon Barkley. While he was the best player available, this team was not set up to draft a running back at all. And it was primarily because of that putrid O-line they had. A running back isn't going to change your franchise around when you give him no help. But that didn't stop the Giants from drafting him, and it also didn't stop Saquon from trying. He hit the ground running, literally. He led the entire league with over 2,000 scrimmage yards, and he also found the end zone 15 times. All this in his rookie season. This is just unheard of. And it's really no surprise that he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Individually, yeah, he was excellent, but that didn't necessarily translate to team success. From 2018 to 2021, the Giants won 19 games and lost 46. However, in the 2022 season, things started looking a little brighter. Former Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll was brought in as the new head coach of the New York Giants. Their schedule that season was relatively easy, and the team finally managed to stay healthy. As a result, they wiggled themselves into a wildcard game. Ultimately, the Giants ended up coming out victorious in this game. Saquon Barkley performed well with over 100 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. But at the forefront of this victory was their quarterback, Daniel Jones. He threw for 300 passing yards, ran for 70 more, and had 2 touchdowns. It was legitimately an impressive performance by a quarterback who was already having a career season. In a dark time of disappointment and a lot of losing, this felt like a step in the right direction. But in reality, it was just lightning in a bottle. Daniel Jones, fresh off of a career season and a compelling playoff victory, was looking to secure a long-term contract in the 2023 offseason. But so was Saquon Barkley. So Joe Schoen, the recently hired general manager of the Giants, had to choose. One player was getting an extension, the other was getting franchise tagged. The Giants attempted to secure a deal with the face of their franchise, but the contract itself said otherwise. Well, at least that's how Saquon's party perceived it. Saquon Barkley knew he was an elite running back, like top 3 in the league type of elite, but he was also an incredible leader, a great teammate, a role model with the intangibles that NFL teams dream of, and he had a gravity that made everyone around him better. So, he wanted to get paid what he thought he deserved. Christian McCaffrey money, which is about $16 million a year. But given the stigma surrounding the running back position and how expendable they're perceived to be, the Giants were never gonna pay him that amount. And from their point of view, it made sense. Saquon Barkley was aging, and injuries, including a torn ACL in 2020, had affected him. Not to a great extent, but it was something to factor in. And more importantly, this roster, and specifically this O-line, was garbage. Elite running backs are a luxury for good teams, and the Giants were nowhere near good enough to be a running back away from being contenders. Now, I'm not going to tell you that one side was right or wrong, but ultimately the verdict was clear. Saquon and the Giants couldn't reach a compromise, so they franchise tagged him and made him stay one more year. As for Daniel Jones, they signed him to a massive 4-year, $160 million contracts. The 2023 season would end up being Saquon Barkley's last in New York. Despite another pretty good year, at the conclusion of the season, the Giants were unwilling to offer Saquon any contracts. Instead, they asked him to test the market in free agency with other teams and bring back an offer to match.
You go see what you are worth, and then if you're worth that, we'll see if you're worth it, and maybe we'll match it. So it's like kind of a little disrespectful, to be honest, because it's kind of like a slap in the face. But
so Saquon Barkley became a free agent. But unfortunately for the Giants, one of the teams that was heavily interested in Saquon wasn't too far away. It was a team right in their division, and it just happened to be their most hated rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were coming off a disappointing 2023 season. They did finish with an 11-6 record, and they did make the playoffs, but they ultimately came crashing down in the first round in an embarrassing loss. That Eagles defense was a liability. However, the offense was good. Jalen Hurts as the Eagles quarterback had already proven to be their guy. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith were one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire NFL. And the O-line, that O-line was a running back's dream. But as for the actual running back position itself, it was uncertain. DeAndre Swift had been running back 1 for the Eagles, but now that he was a free agent, Howie Roseman, the Eagles general manager, had a decision to make. Did he want to re-sign Swift, try his luck in the draft, or the bold move, sign a premium running back in free agency? Obviously, he chose the latter. And just like that, one day Saquon was loved in New York, the next, he was hated. And if I was a Giants fan, I'd hate him too, because Saquon Barkley is really what unlocked the next gear for the Eagles. He was what made their offense unstoppable. And when you factor in a defense that was completely overhauled and revitalized, one that went from being one of the worst the previous season to probably the best in 2024, it's not hard to see why the Eagles overwhelmed almost every opponent on their schedule. As a team, the Eagles were incredible, but somehow, individually, Saquon was even better. His 2024 campaign was historic. He started the season off strong with an 100-yard, 3-touchdown performance against the Packers, and then 150 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in New Orleans in Week 3. But it was that homecoming game in Week 7 in MetLife Stadium when Saquon Barkley showed everyone that he was trying to send a message this year. He showed no mercy against his former team. He ran the ball 17 times and had 176 rushing yards. He was averaging over 10 yards per carry. And mind you, he sat out the fourth quarter. The Giants were left shocked as they were humiliated 28-3. And from here on out, these 100-yard plus multiple touchdown games weren't just great performances, they were the norm for Saquon Barkley. With each week that passed, he showcased a speed and athleticism that was once thought to be greatly diminished, but was in fact still very much there.
The spin move at the last second, and then he turned around and jumped over him.
And each week those numbers kept accumulating. He stamped his name into franchise and NFL record books with compelling performances in almost every game. And he didn't slow down in the postseason either. 119 rushing yards against the Packers in the wild card, 205 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns against the Rams in the divisional round, and 118 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns against Washington in the NFC Championship. However, in the Super Bowl, he did only have 57 rushing yards, but his presence alone imposed fear into that Chiefs defense. While the Chiefs were so focused on neutralizing Saquon, they completely forgot about the superstars in the passing game. Despite what the final score of 40-22 might indicate, this game was never close. In fact, it was one of the most convincing Super Bowl victories in NFL history. And just like that, Another Lombardi Trophy in Philadelphia, almost as a direct result of the Giants' incompetence. It's obvious that the Giants would have preferred any other outcome, but their mistake wasn't as simple as just letting Saquon Barkley go. Since the very moment they drafted him, they had already started on the wrong foot. Saquon Barkley was a great running back, but like any other running back, you need an O-line around him, and the Giants didn't have that. They did him dirty by putting him behind that atrocious O-line, and as much as they tried to improve it, they failed. They failed at drafting, they failed at developing, and they failed at coaching. So, in actuality, the Giants' mistake wasn't letting Saquon Barkley go. It was failing to construct a proper team, a proper foundation around their generational player. As a result, by the time contract talks came around, the Giants weren't capable of retaining him because, man, they sucked. And no running back was gonna save him, not even Saquon. The harsh reality of the situation is that the Giants and the Eagles are two sides of the same coin. At their core, you have two huge market NFL teams with some of the loudest and most loyal fans you'll ever see. Two teams who both play in the same division and who really hate each other. But where they differentiate is their front office. The Eagles have had one of the best cultures in the NFL recently, simply because of the fact that they win. And the reason they win is because the Eagles front office, led by Howie Roseman, has been so good at constructing and managing a roster for years now. And no better way to exemplify that than with their 2 Lombardi trophies. The Giants, on the other hand, they've been a shadow of their former selves since that 2011 Super Bowl win. And since 2011, they've only made the playoffs twice and only won one postseason game. They've also failed over and over and over at building a good football team. The city and fans are great, don't get me wrong, but I mean, what player would want to come here just to lose? At one point, there was a Saquon Barkley who once proclaimed he wanted to be a Giant for life, but that Saquon is long gone now. When the Giants made a business decision to not pay him, they made it clear that despite all he had done for them, he wasn't this untouchable player. At the end of the day, he was very much expendable like everyone else at his position. But when that running back went to the Giants' rivals in Philadelphia and supercharged the Eagles to new heights, it felt like a grudge. It felt personal. But in reality, Saquon Barkley just made a decision that prioritized himself and his career first. It just sucks for the Giants that that decision led him to Philadelphia and winning a ring there. But I really don't think the Giants should dwell on it too much. After all, it's just business.